Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We will be covering some of the biggest stars playing at this summer's Olympics. Regarding soccer, obviously, we'll talk about Pep Guardiola. If this is his final season, what kind of impact can this have on Manchester City? We'll talk about Joachim Löw being interested in the England managerial position. We'll talk about Brazil and how they can get back to their best after their Copa America failure. And we'll talk about the top soccer headlines. We'll react to some of the top soccer headlines. Before we start off, I'd like to ask that you like and follow the show. Also, we get a number of questions that come in during the show. So to ensure that your questions get read on the air, I ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcsoccerpodcast.net with your questions. Just put your questions at the top of the list so that I can see it, and it also really helps grow the show. So again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. We start off with what are some of the biggest stars playing at this summer Olympics. Now, this summer's Olympics is going to be very, very interesting. It's going to be a fun Olympic Games. I'm a fan of Olympic soccer. I know some people look at it more of a negative light, but I happen to be on more of the positive light in terms of Olympic football. I love watching Olympic football. I think Olympic football does belong in the Olympics, contrary to some opinions of certain people out there. But I believe football belongs in the Olympics. I think the Olympics is a display of the greatest athletes, and I think soccer is the best sport in the world, so it should be in the Olympics. And really, if it was up to me, I think it'd be more of a bigger thing at the Olympics than just another youth competition, because that's what it is, a U23 competition with a few overage players. I'd really make it kind of like it could be a substitute for the Confederation Cup. Now that they don't have the Confederation Cup anymore, teams could take the Olympics seriously. Now, obviously, it's tricky when you have the European Championships and Copa America in that same window. Teams are not going to be able to send, like an example, France, they're not going to be able to send Mbappe to boast the Olympics. And actually, Mbappe is one of the age-eligible players, so that's not even a good... Okay, Griezmann. France are not going to be able to send Griezmann to boast the Olympics and Euros. It's just impossible. Clubs won't approve of it, and it'll be too much for the player. And by the way, also something, if you make it a normal international tournament, and you make it a FIFA sanctioned tournament, the clubs are not going to have a right to, deny the players from, going to the Olympics. So I think that'll make the Olympics even more of a big deal as well. And yeah, I think FIFA could make the men's side better. Basically what it is for the women's side. I think they could get clever with it. Now, obviously, there's a lot of football already players have to play, and it's just going to be a whole nother thing of people being critical, or why add football, but you leave it up to the players. If they want to play at the Olympics, they should be allowed to play at the Olympics. The club should not have a right to ban, in my opinion, and I think FIFA could change it up and, make this more of a tournament that's respected. But yes, there are still some big stars competing at this summer's Olympics. There's always big stars competing at the Summer Olympics. If you go back to the last Olympics, Spain basically took their full U23 team. I mean, Spain literally took their full U23 team, and they took a lot of players that were playing at the Euros earlier that year. I think Pedri was on the obviously Pedri was on that team. There was the people talking about how much games he played, but yes, Pedri was on that team. Oyarzabal was on that team. Eric Garcia was on that team after playing in the European Championship. Plenty of players that played in the European Championships were among the team, because in Spain, the Spanish Federation has a rule where you cannot block a player from joining the Spain Olympic team in La Liga. So Spain, where the U23 team was able to take advantage of it. Now they're not doing that same thing. Spanish Federation, they're not taking Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams, but they still have a few players that were, you know, some very good players. Pau Cubarsi from Barcelona is going to be part of the team, and Eric Garcia, he's also going to be a part of the team. From Barcelona, he actually is a silver medalist at the Olympics already. He won the last Olympics. Fermin Lopez, also another the Barcelona trio. They're gonna be involved. So there's they're not taking the full team like they took at the last Olympics, the full U23 team, but they have some very good players in there, and they're gonna be a threat. Morocco, they've taken Achraf Hakimi actually. I'm surprised he was able to get his release from PSG. He actually goes in as a overage player, with him being age 25. And he has an opportunity to represent his country on the Olympic stage. It'll be a great opportunity for him. Abdi Ezalzouli is also going to be involved in that team. If you remember Abdi Ezalzouli, he was on Barcelona a few years ago. He was one of the youngsters that were really playing under Xavi. Now he's playing at Real Betis, and yeah, he's a pacey player, and he'll be an option. He'll be a good winger option for this Moroccan Olympic team. You have the likes of Naby Keita, who he's gonna be playing for Guinea. He's going to be captaining Guinea. They were able to get in. They were one of the last teams to get in through a playoff. They actually happened to be in the group with the U.S., so it's going to be interesting to see Naby Keita, how the U.S. can contain him. But he's a very, very good player. He's an overage player, obviously, with him being 29, playing at Liverpool all the years. Now he's at Werder Bremen. And yeah, it's going to be interesting how they handle him. El Neni, he's gonna be one of the overage players, formerly Arsenal midfielder, but now he's now I believe he's a free agent, but he's gonna be one of the overage players for Egypt. Ryan Cherki playing for France, also Olympic Lyon, is a player I really, really like. France, they got let's be honest regarding France. France, they got a super team, and they don't even have their best U23 players. They have Olise, who was one of their best U23 players, but they didn't take a full they didn't take the likes of Chouameni, Camavinga, Saliba, but man, this team is still loaded. Oh my goodness, they are loaded. They're loaded with some strong overage players, with Lacazette and Jean-Philippe Mateta. Defensively, they're very, very strong in there, with Loic Bade, Bradley Loku, Castillo Beca, Adrian Truffard, Kylian Sildilia, and then Songotu Magessa. There's not much holes in this team. Midfield, too, got some brilliant midfielders in there. Manu Kone, Enzo Miliot, Desiree Douy, Magnus Akuluchi, and Joris Chatort. And then I told you about Ryan Cherki. He's, in my opinion, I like his profile of player. Playing at Lyon, I think he is he's going to get a move to a big club soon. You heard about Borussia Dortmund talking to him. I think he's a player with quality. They also have the likes of Jean-Philippe Mateta, Alexander Lacazette, Michael Olise, Arnaud Clément. This is by far the most talented teams at this Olympic Games. And they're also playing in their home nation of France. They're going to pack every stadium. They have the quality of the players. The one question is their manager, Thierry Henry. Is he a great manager? Is he not? I don't know. And will that really get exposed at this Olympic level when you have this much talent? I don't know. But is he able to keep up with other managers in terms of in-game tactician, in terms of being able to manage a squad? I'm very, very interested. But let's be fair. With this quality of players, they're gonna pack every stadium because the tournament is gonna be in France, and they're gonna have the home support of a nation trying to bring the Olympic gold medal to France for the first time ever. It's gonna be fantastic to watch, and I'm already saying this. We're here in the U.S. As a U.S. fan, if you're rooting for the U.S. in that opening game against France, brace for impact. Brace for impact. That's all I'm going to say. Absolutely brace for impact, because this French team is absolutely loaded. This French team is absolutely loaded. Got quality everywhere. I talked about the U.S. team. They're not that strong. In my opinion, they're not that strong. In my opinion, the overage players is Walker Zimmerman and Miles Robinson, which provides stability in the back. I think they're two decent center backs. Okay, and then Georgia Mihailovic in midfield. But there's better overage players that we could have got. Much better overage players that we could have got. And let's be honest, you look at that team. It's an MLS roster, and it's primarily because, well, the European guys, we couldn't get. Well, we tried to get Haji Wright as an overage player, I heard, but Coventry didn't allow that. And we have some top U23 players that can get in. I mean, almost. You look at the national team. You got Yunus Musa. You got, I believe Yunus Musa, is he still 23 actually? Yeah, he is. Clearly U23. You got Yunus Musa, Giovanni Reina, Ricardo Pepi, Valerian Balogun. You got so many U23 players involved in the Copa America roster, but obviously club situation, they won't release their players, and we're left with these guys, and there's serious issues with our fullbacks, in my opinion, and our strikers, Duncan McGuire, who in my opinion is not that good. Let's just be fair, he's not that good, and he's the only option at number 9, and I don't see any of the attacking players that we have that can play in that false 9 role. There's none of them that have those kind of qualities, that kind of flexibility to play that role. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think this U.S. team is that strong, honestly. But it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. I don't want to be too pessimistic. But yeah, I also a team. Maybe in my opinion, that I think the biggest threat to France of getting the Olympic gold is Argentina, because Argentina has some quality with Julian Alvarez, Geronimo Rulli, Thiago Almada. They also have a center back experience of Nicolas Otamendi. This Argentinian team is loaded. And they have quality, and they also have experience with Otamendi. They have World Cup winners in Julian Alvarez, Almada, Otamendi. They'll be managed by Javier Mascherano, who who's won an Olympic gold medal himself as a player, so he knows how to navigate a team through these Olympics, and he knows really how it works. So yeah, I think it's gonna be very, very interesting. Very, very interesting Olympics. I definitely think France are favorites, but I think Argentina can definitely give them a run for their money. And Spain also has some quality too, but can they is some of the top players missing out, like a Nico Williams, like a Lamine Yamal? Is that going to make them pay? But other than that, it's definitely, in my opinion, France, Argentina, and Spain. Those are the 3 favorites at these Olympic Games. I don't see the rest of those teams. I think Paraguay with Julio and Ciso, they have a young, dynamic core in Paraguay. I think that could be a threat. Obviously, I spoke about Morocco with Hakimi. Morocco has some young players coming up. Ukraine, they weren't able to take some of their top youth youth guys, the likes of um, Mikhailo Mudrik, he's not going to be playing at the Olympics. So, so yeah, I don't think they will be that, you know, big of a threat. So, yeah, I think it's gonna be a very very good Olympic Games. Always there's the one or two players that really pop and make a name for themselves, that really come out. I remember 2012 it was Neymar, it was Mohamed Salah, there was more in that Olympics actually. The entire Mexico team, Oribe Peralta, Giovanni Dos Santos. Yeah, that team in 2012. 2016, you had the likes of Serge Gnabry. He made his name at that Olympic Games. Serge Gnabry, that was the big one out of that. Then the last Olympic Games, Marco Correa, Anthony to an extent, but he didn't really live up so far. But yeah, it always gives a chance for these 2-3 guys to really pop out and make a name for themselves. So I'm excited to see who that will be at this summer's Olympic Games. I really am. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll talk about the Guardiola situation at Manchester United.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Before the break, we discussed the situation with what are some of the biggest stars playing at the Summer Olympics. It's time to move on to discuss, whether or not if this is Guardiola's final season at Manchester City, what kind of impact it can have on their, like, if he were to announce that this is his final season, which should come within the next few months or so. I don't think this is something that's going to drag on till later on to the season. But yes, if he does announce that this will be his final season, how big of an impact can this have on Manchester City? And for me, I think it'll have a huge impact, because, when you've had this much success that Manchester City have, and they've had absolutely, an extreme, an unreal, an unheard amount of success over the Pep Guardiola era. I lost track of how many Premier Leagues, whether it's like 5 or something, 5 and 6 years, something crazy like that. They won the Champions League, won the treble as well. When you've accomplished basically everything, literally everything, actually. I mean, I don't think there is a trophy that they can't, I don't think there's a trophy that they could win that they haven't won. Because look, they took care of the Champions League, the Club World Cup, the Super Cup. They won the UEFA Super Cup. They won the Community Shield. They won the Premier League. They won the EFL Cup. They won the FA Cup. I mean, I literally don't think there's a single trophy that they can win that they haven't. I mean, they literally accomplished it all. So when you're as successful as Manchester City have been under Pep Guardiola, you're finding new things to motivate you. You're finding new things to drive you, to continue to drive you, new motivation, new heights that you want to reach. And if you've already accomplished everything, you're kind of picking, you're kind of like picking hairs to find the next motivating factor, because it's hard to come back the next year after accomplishing everything to go at it again, and just find that sort of motivation. It's very, very, very difficult. But, I think City have found themselves a great way to motivate themselves this season. If it is Guardiola's final season, I think that's the perfect sort of motivation. The last hurrah. Let's send Pep Guardiola with the greatest season ever. You saw elements of that with Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool this season. I think the Jurgen Klopp announcement of this was his final season pushed Liverpool on more farther in the title race than they really should have been. Because if you look at the level of the team, they were not at the level of competing with the likes of Manchester City. They were not at that level. But I think with the motivation of it being Jurgen Klopp last season and the fans getting behind and, everything, I just think it gave them that little bit extra. Eventually they were caught out because they were just not, they were hanging on and they were just not at that level to compete with Manchester City. They were a rebuilding team. They really put up a fight, a much better fight than they really should have. And I think there's an element of that we're going to see with Manchester City here, that this is going to push them and motivate them to reach extreme heights, to win the Premier League, to win the Champions League and all that. Not saying that they're going to win it because Pep Guardiola announces his departure, but I think there's going to be a new added level of motivation. I think it'll have a big impact, the new motivation that this will have. And yeah, I don't know whether or not Pep Guardiola, obviously I don't know whether or not Pep Guardiola is going to leave, City or not. I'm not an insider or anything. But I don't know a way to word this. But I think it makes the storyline of the season just, intriguing as the season goes on. Whether or not that announcement does come or does not come, it's gonna make it even more interested. It's gonna make the season so interesting. So are you staying? Are you leaving? And I think that's gonna become a big question mark throughout the season. I really do. Unless he comes out before the season, I'm staying or I'm going. I'm staying or I'm going. If he doesn't and he continues to linger, I think that storyline will be really big, almost as big as the actual games going on. That's how big I think it will be. Is Pep Guardiola staying on or not? Is Pep Guardiola staying on or not? I can imagine the headlines. I can imagine the talk shows, that being the number one thing. I can imagine seeing after a Manchester City game, a Premier League game in week 5, week 6, them going, so based on what's going on so far this season, you think Pep Guardiola is going to stay or not? Blah, blah, blah. I already imagine those headlines. And I think that could be a distraction at the same time. And I think it's important for Pep Guardiola to announce soon. And it's also better for Manchester City. I believe I saw a report saying Manchester City, they want a decision by December. So they don't, so that they can have a proper managerial search looking like to do what Liverpool did. Jurgen Klopp did Liverpool a big favor in terms of announcing the fact that he's leaving earlier. I think it made it really much easier for Liverpool to go in to find that new manager, because they had the time throughout the season to look, and they were able to settle on Arne Slot very early. It gave them that flexibility, and I think Manchester City are looking for that when they put kind of a deadline on Pep Guardiola's decision. But for me, what's inarguable here is Pep Guardiola is mulling his opportunities. He is definitely mulling his opportunity. He doesn't know whether or not right now. I believe right now he does not know whether or not he wants to stay on or not. Because if he does, why not just come out and say it? So I definitely think there's a decision to make, and I think this is the first time that he's probably actually hesitated when it comes to making this decision in terms of, whether or not this will be his final season or not. I don't think those thoughts have probably came into his head till now. But when you've done it for as long as he's done it at Manchester City and been as successful as he's done it, you kind of get to the point where you're thinking, okay, what else can I do? What else can I truly do? Yeah, I'm gonna be very, very interested. I think the storylines are gonna be big, but I think it's gonna have a big, big impact on their season. There's no two ways about it, and I think you're gonna see a different level of desperation from the players on the pitch, especially in these late round Champions League ties, down the stretch in the Premier League, chasing that title, or trying to make the gap bigger. You're going to see a different level of desperation knowing, okay, this is Guardiola's final season. I really think I'm going to be very, very interested to see, and I'm very interested to see when the decision comes. That's something also that is going to be very fascinating. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll react to Joachim Löw being interested in this England managerial position.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Before the break, we discussed if this is Guardiola's final season at City, what impact that can have on their season. We move on to react to Joachim Löw. He is interested in the England job. According to reports, he has thrown his name in the hat in terms of interest in the England managerial position. So yeah, it's gonna be that's a interesting topic of discussion. Very interesting topic of discussion, and whether or not England are actually going to even recognize this interest is a whole different conversation. But it is a conversation. Number one, FA, the English FA, they have already confirmed that they're already working on appointing the next manager. According to reports, Joachim Löw expressed interest in the vacancy after Southgate resignated. Joachim Löw, he was the former manager of Germany. He was the manager of Germany from 2006 to 2021, a whopping 15 years. And he had a very successful run. He led the country to World Cup when they won in 2014 in Brazil. They're actually the first and only national team, European team, to win a World Cup in South America. And they achieved that in a supreme fashion. And they're a brilliant team. They were a really brilliant team. He was a very good tactician throughout the tournament. There was a lot of things that he did that was criticized. He would play 4 center backs in the back in certain games. He was just a madman, a tactician madman. And he was brilliant. Even in 2006, when he was the assistant, 2006 World Cup, when he was the assistant coach for Joachim Löw, for Jurgen Klinsmann. Jurgen Klinsmann was looked at as like the motivational, leader, the manager, leader of the team, while Joachim Löw was really the tactician, the main tactician. But yeah, he said to be happy to talk to the English Football Association since the resignation of Southgate. There was also reports that was revealed that Ange Postecoglou is on the list of candidates the FA are actually considering for the next England manager. There've also been other candidates linked with the job in terms of English candidates: Eddie Howe, Graham Potter. In terms of foreigners, Jurgen Klopp, Thomas Tuchel, Mauricio Pochettino. But to be honest, if you have to be honest, Tuchel and Klopp, they don't seem like realistic to be the manager of an England national team, especially with Klopp. Tuchel, maybe that's a little bit interesting. You talked about how he liked the English fans and the media and all that, and how it's better than Germany when he was that interview talking when he was at Bayern. But does he want to take on the role of England national team? Does he want to, go away from the day-to-day of being a club football manager and become an international manager? Does he want that for himself as well? I don't think that's a realistic option. I think the fascinating thing about Joachim Löw is a lot of these managers that are linked to this England role, they don't have any sort of international management experience, and I think it's very different in that you have less time to implement your system. It's different managing a tournament and managing a season, and it's just different. There's different natures to managing international teams compared to club teams. It's just completely different. And I think Joachim Löw can do some good things for England. I think he got a reset that he needed. I don't think he, his style fell out of football or anything. I just think he was at Germany for too long, and it was just eventually time for it to end. And it looked rough near the latter years of his tenure at Germany, but you cannot forget the successful years that he had. And, all good things, eventually they come to an end, and I just think it ran its course at Germany. I don't think he's a bad manager or anything. But yeah, Joachim Löw's his last game as a manager was when he stepped down afterwards. This game was the Euro 2021 defeat where Germany actually lost to England at Wembley 2-0, and since then he has not worked. And yeah, it's gonna be interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see if England actually, really recognize this as a potential candidate, if they even go as far as, speak with him. I don't know, because it seems like, England wants to go the path of developing coaches and wants someone that is English, that potentially went up and, grew up in the St. George's system the way Gareth Southgate did, which would look at Lee Carsley as an option, who is their current U21 coach. But the problem with Lee Carsley is, he has no management experience at the senior level. I don't know how you can give him the reins of an England men's national team job with the level of expectation and the quality amongst this English team when the guy hasn't even managed at the senior level. Like, for me, that's absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, as far as Joachim Löw, I definitely think England should definitely consider it. I definitely think they should talk to him. There's better options out there, you would say, but he's done. He has accomplished ultimately what many what England want to do, and that's win a World Cup to bring it home. He has accomplished that. This is a guy with the World Cup winning pedigree. So, if he has accomplished that, you have to look at him. Now, the thing that is tricky is there's not many managers that have won the World Cup twice as a manager. Obviously, what's his name? Didier Deschamps. He's won the World Cup as a player and a manager. But there has not been much managers that won the World Cup twice. So that makes it tricky in the fact that, he had his time. Is maybe it's done. Maybe you think from that logic, managers didn't win World Cup twice. I believe the only one that did it was a Uruguayan manager, and he did it in like the 30s. Yeah, it was Vittorio Pozzo, and he's the only person that's won the World Cup twice as a manager, and he did it in 1934 and 38 with Italy. But that was at the same team and totally different time. Nowadays, you don't see managers win multiple World Cups as a manager. It's just something far-fetched, and yeah, he's a. Now, from the reports, he's very interested in the job, so he seems like he thinks that he could do it, but I don't know. The quality is there, and I definitely think he's a major upgrade over Southgate in terms of tactically being a just-in-game. I think he's a better tactician than Gareth Southgate. I think in terms of squad selection and starting lineup selection and getting the best 11 players on the field and getting the best out of the talent, I think he's a much better option than Southgate, and I think they'll play a much more attractive style of football than Gareth Southgate. I really do think they'll be much more fun to watch, and they'll be open because German teams have been open, and those German teams under him were very open, but they're always open, German teams. But they're going to be extremely open and, vulnerable in counter-attack, but they'll also be splendid going forward. The quality England has, oh my goodness, they'll be absolutely brilliant. What he could do with Cole Palmer and Trent and Saka and Bellingham, it just goes on and on. It'll be very fantastic to watch. So yeah, I think he should definitely be an option, and they should seriously consider him. And I think he's a better option than all the Graham Potters, the Lee Carsley now. Eddie Howe, that's a good one. That's a good manager too, and he's English, so that could give him the head-to-head over Joachim Löw. But apart from that, I think Joachim Löw might be one of their better options, honestly. But we'll see. The English FA, if they're a serious national FA, they'll at least interview him. They'll at least talk to him. The US, they're not a serious organization, so they don't even talk to managers that's deemed interest, managers that are much better than the managers they end up hiring. Talking about specifically, what's his name? Lopetegui. He showed interest, but they decided to go with Berhalter, and Berhalter turned out to be a fraud. So, yeah, short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll talk about Brazil national team.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
How does Brazil get back to their best after Copa America failure? Yeah, this is a sensitive topic for me because I'm a Brazil fan, and it's it's very interesting. It's a very interesting situation going on with Brazil. I think we're seeing a Brazil team that's in transition, that's trying to find their new foot. They were really, really poor at this Copa America. They've been poor in World Cup qualifiers. And, you know, it's better to have a poor run, poor campaign entering a Copa America rather than a World Cup. So if you want to look at it from that perspective, you look at it from positive in terms of that. But I will say in terms of just purely what's going on, big concerns. The level of quality in this current national team. I'm not talking about the youth players coming up, because there's some youth players coming up. There's some young elite players making moves to Europe very, very early, which actually could be a detriment to Brazil football, which I'll discuss later. But in terms of youth development and players coming up, there's quality that is coming up. But there are players that lack that Brazilian Jogo Bonito, and they don't have the fear factor that previous Brazilian teams have. They don't have that fear factor. They don't have that flair. They don't have that swagger. They don't have that cohesiveness, that Brazilian cohesiveness, which is just different than just a cohesive team. It's something you can't even explain. When I say the Brazilian cohesiveness of football, it was just total Jogo Bonito. It's in terms of being able to dominate in possession and also be vertical and be quality vertical in terms of being able to beat a man one-on-one and open up space for your teammates. It's being able to control the ball from the midfield, have a number 6 that can dictate the tempo, be a regista, having 8 that's comfortable driving forward with the ball, that can pick out any pass on the field, that has supreme quality. And if you're a Brazilian player, every single player has the best first touch and best quality and best ability to play in tight spaces, and there's no weaknesses in terms of quality amongst the team in terms of ball control. The center backs can pass out. The fullbacks have the ability to go up and to create and also be solid defenders. We don't see that with the Brazil team. This Brazil team has deficiencies. The midfield, there's no goals in that midfield. There is no goals in that midfield. There's, a few quality players, but those players, they can't pick out passes like previous midfielders too. I mean, Andres Pereira, he's starting for some of these games in Brazil, and he's playing at Fulham. He's a Manchester United reject. Lucas Paquetá, he's a clever player, but he's not Ronaldinho. He's not Ronaldinho. Vinicius Jr., he doesn't perform nowhere near the levels that he did for Real Madrid, that he does for Brazil. And to be honest, Vinicius Jr., he's not one of those traditional Brazilian type of players. He's a hybrid of a pacey vertical threat, and that can get a goal, and that has quality, and that has a little bit of flair, but he doesn't have that Brazilian flair. And then Rodrigo, he has some quality here and there, but he's not, the likes of a Rivaldo or anything like that. The last player that Brazil developed with that real sort of flair and that real sort of quality was Neymar. And Neymar will be back into the national team. There's no doubts about that. Once he goes back from his injury, if he can get back to the levels that he was pre that injury, he's going to be part of this national team. He will still be the best player on this national team, and it will help a bit. But the problem is just bigger than the absence of Neymar, and that's what people are forgetting, are trying to ignore with this Neymar injury. It's not just Neymar the problem with this Brazil team, this Neymar injury. It's a lack of Brazilian identity amongst this team. And also, you see in the past, Brazilian players would stay in the Brazil league till they're 20, 21, even 22, and really develop in the Brazilian system and to continue to develop their quality and flair, and they'll be in Brazil and then they'll go on late. The last player I remember do that is also the last player that has that real Brazilian flair, Neymar. Now these top quality Brazilian style of players, they're leaving to Europe 15, 16, and they lack that Brazilian flair that the previous generation had. And I'm starting to think whether or not that has something to do with it, whether or not the development in the fact that they're going to Europe aged 14, 15, 16, 17, is that having something to do with it? Is that the issue? Because then what is it? Because there's still plenty of players that are getting scouted in the Brazil leagues and all that. Plenty of youth players. So many. Chelsea picked up like 3 or 4. And these are players with real quality, and they're gonna come up. Endrick too. He's another one. Extreme talent, right? But they're losing that Brazilian flair when they go off to Europe just a little bit too early, and they're developing the European style of football, which is not what Brazil does best. That's not what Brazil is. Brazil is Jogo Bonito. They're not the European style, and when they try to play to the style of someone else, they don't play as good. You naturally don't do what you do best whenever you're trying to be like someone else. So I think Brazil, they need to keep their players in Brazil for a little bit longer. Let them develop in the Jogo Bonito flair style of play, and then send them off to Europe when they're ready to really take that next step in their career and to be an immediate impact. Right now, Endrick, what is the point of Endrick going to Real Madrid right now, age 17? He's not getting into that team when they already have the likes of Mbappe, Rodrigo, Vinicius. He's going to be a bit part player, number one. Number two, he's 17. Why is he going there for that early? Why doesn't he continue to develop in Brazil so then he can make that move later on Real Madrid where he's ready to get into that starting 11 right away? He's going to be a bit part player for Real Madrid now. They're loaded at Real Madrid, and they've won back-to-back Champions League. They're not looking here to give 17-year-old quality minutes game in, game out. It's not going to happen. So what's the point of Endrick going to Real Madrid right now? He should wait at least another 2 seasons, continue to develop, to continue to play at the highest level. He's going to be playing game in, game out at Palmeiras. He's going to continue to develop his flair, his quality, playing game in, game out. What he needs is minutes, not to be, sitting on the bench waiting for Mbappe. That's not what's needed for his development. That's really not what is needed for development. And look, there's been so many moments in Brazil, in terms of Brazilian football, that there's been so many warning signs, and then there's been an outcry for like 5 minutes. Oh, we need to change. The whole thing needs to change. The whole Brazilian system needs to change and go back to the roots of what makes it best. And then 5 minutes passes by and everyone forgets about it, and they just say, okay, no. It's, let's just continue on the way we're going right now. We still have quality players. So many warning signs. You go back, it was the first one was when Santos got completely destroyed by Barcelona in the Club World Cup. This is what Neymar was playing at Santos, and there was a big uproar as people were saying, but nothing happened. 5 minutes later, they didn't change nothing. You go a few years later, Brazil in a home World Cup got completely destroyed and picked apart by Germany 7-1. The biggest humiliation in the history of football. 7-1. And there's no change there. Again, outcry for 5-10 minutes. We need to do this, we need to do that, blah 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 blah. Where's the real change though? What's been the change in the system of how Brazilian players are developed and how, what's going on? There's nothing that's the same. There's nothing different. It's still the same BS that we're seeing right now. What's the problem? Let's go to 2016 Copa America. Now Neymar wasn't playing at this Copa America because he decided to play at the Olympics because he wanted to bring back the Olympic gold medal to Brazil for the first time ever. So there's no Neymar there, but they still took a first team and they get eliminated in the group stages of the Copa America. This is a combined Copa America Centenarios like the one we had this time around, North America, South America combined. But they failed to get out of a group with Ecuador, Peru, and Haiti. They go on to fire their coach Dunga, and then it's an outcry for about 5 minutes. But then Brazil, they win the Olympic gold medal, and I guess it puts cracks over the crevices because the whole I'll tell you what, as a Brazilian fan, everybody wanted the Olympic gold medal more than the Copa America because of the fact that Brazil has never won it. That was the main focus of that summer, but it happened to cover the holes of the holes that were exposed at that Copa America. And then, Brazil still has talent, so they'll still go on their quarterfinal runs in the World Cup like they did in 2018 and 22. But the way it's going right now, Brazil's not going to win a World Cup anytime soon. They're going to be a threat at 2026 because there's real quality and all that. But can they win it? I don't know. And for me, it has to be a major shift in terms of the way Brazilian youth players are treated and how the fact that they need to stay more in Brazil longer before they get sent off to Europe. But it's also, they just, the players that are coming up, they need more world class players too. And Vinicius, he's supposed to be the talisman of this Brazilian team, but his levels for Real Madrid in Brazil is completely different. I believe he has like 5 goals and 30 plus caps for Brazil. It's just not good enough. It's just not good enough. And Rodrigo too, his performance levels at Real Madrid is better than what he produces at Brazil. So I think there is a quality issue with this Brazil team. They don't have the quality of previous Brazil teams. And the manager is not the problem, Dorval Jr. Let's just get that out of the way. He's not the problem. It's a player's problem. And I don't know. I think there needs to be a major transition in Brazilian football. I really do. Because if not, I don't think that 6th World Cup is coming anytime soon. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll react to some of the top soccer headlines. Final segment coming up. We react to some of the top soccer headlines. And we start off with Mason Greenwood. It's he has reached agreement in principle with Marseille, or Marseille has reached an agreement in principle with Mason Greenwood and Manchester United to sign him. It's going to be a 5-year contract. He's already arrived at Marseille right now. He landed in Marseille. So, it's gonna be it's official. The papers are gonna be signed soon. And yeah, obviously, he was a Manchester United player, went up the ranks at United's what's Manchester United's youth what's their youth academy called? I forgot. I forgot what it's called. Like La Masia for Barcelona or Cobham for Chelsea. I forgot what Manchester United's academy is called. But he went up with the likes of Manchester United's academy, and then he eventually got put in the first team. Huge potential, highly rated. But then there was the incident with his partner of domestic violence and sexual assault and all that, and he ended up getting charged, but the charges didn't go through, and he returned to football. And then obviously there was a big clamor within United supporters, a big controversy on whether or not he should play or not. It was just too controversial, so they loaned him out to Girona. He had a decent season. Now he's back at United, but then United are gonna sell him off, and it's official. They have sold him to Marseille, and it's a chance for him to restart his career and really be It's a chance for him to restart his career and really get away from all the negativity in England surrounding him. Obviously, he made a big mistake, and there's proof of that mistake. But you know, there are second chances in this world, and he gets it. So, and Marseille's mayor actually tried to prevent this chance from happening. Marseille's, you know, I guess ignored him because they're still going through with it. And respect to Marseille, actually, honestly, because, you know, there's pressure coming from, you know, an official, city official like the mayor. That's a big pressure. But don't let political people bully you into a decision when you're a football club. I think political people in political positions have no right to comment on anything football related. It has nothing to do with them. Just because you're the owner in the city that the team plays in, you have no right to talk about whether the city should go for this, team should go for this or that player or any of that. You're not part of the football operations. You are the mayor of the city. You do your own job. You stay in politics. Don't worry about football. I talked about this a few days ago, but it reminded me like the Boris Johnson situation with the Super League. Yeah, I disagreed with the Super League, but I didn't want to hear a press conference where Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, talking about how we'll pass laws to prevent this and all that. Like, no, do your job. Worry about the country. Stop worrying about football. Football, you know, there's football politicians themselves. There's presidents of UEFA and presidents of FIFA and all that worry about all that. Don't, you know, stay in your lane. I really bothers me when politicians try to use their power to have a say in, you know, anything when it comes to sports. Really, they really need to stay in their own lane. So I'm happy Marseille didn't crumble to the public pressure from a city official like a mayor. Not much. Oh, Lenny Yoro, yeah. Lenny Yoro, quality center back, another French talent, because, you know, France, they always develop quality players. Man United have beat Real Madrid to Yoro. He's going to be signing a 5-year contract with Manchester United. He's actually undergoing a medical already. Yoro has said yes to Manchester United. No, it's basically done. And is with Yoro, Real Madrid, according to reports, Real Madrid didn't want to pay more than 30 million. PSG didn't want to pay more than 45 because he's an 18-year-old that's going to be free in 1 year. But United paid 63 million. Yoro he's a talent, and he's 18, and, you know, he's one for the future. But United did overpay for him. But also United realized that there's teams, especially with Real Madrid, that probably want him more. So they would have to overpay to get him. But man, United paid 63 million compared to Real Madrid, who didn't want to pay more than 30. It shows that the transfer strategy at Manchester United is so bad. So bad. But Lenny Yoro, he's a good player. He's definitely a good player. Kevin Sullivan, aged 14, which is so crazy to me, 14 years and 293 days. He has broke the record in terms of youngest MLS player. Freddie Adu's was the record, lasted for a very, very long time, as he featured for a side. Freddie Adu took Freddie Adu, he took the field as a 14-year-old a while back, but I believe, I forgot how old is he actually, but Kevin Sullivan broke it when he featured for Philadelphia Union this past Wednesday, or yesterday. No, not yesterday. Technically today. Oh yeah, technically yesterday, but really today because it's 12:50. But when he took on the New England Revolution. And yeah, it's he got on to the second half. He's a young American. He's signed the largest homegrown contract in MLS soccer history, and it's a deal that actually will create a potential transfer to Manchester City when he turns 18. because of the when he turns 18. So yeah, that's very fascinating. It's a player with real quality and real ability, because if he's getting on 14, there has to be huge potential. And by the way, Sullivan, not only is he the youngest MLS player, but he's also younger than any player that has ever appeared in NBA, NHL, NFL, WNBA, or MLB since 1970. That's ridiculous. The youngest to done in all of those leagues since 1970 was actually Bynum for the Lakers in 2005 when he was 18 years and 6 days. So Sullivan kind of smashed that, honestly. So good for Sullivan, and I think this is a player definitely with potential, because I don't know much about his profile, but if you're playing age 14, there's real ability, and if you're getting ready, if you're ready getting a future contract in place for a team like Manchester City, he must have real quality, and he must be a threat. If Manchester City are swooping in with him being that young. And there's also a added element with this player being American. So he has I believe, no, with him being American, so that's also a good news for the U.S. men's national team. Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. Thank you once again, and have a wonderful day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.